Welcome back to the Lantern Rouge Cycling Podcast with Benji Nice and a triple header if you're listening on podcast players. The Tour de Suisse, though, will do first, as it is a World Tour race. We'll honour the World Tour designation for this race, even though it wasn't that exciting a stage. 171 k's from Saint-Gobain to Stade. The one big climb of the day, the Sarne-Moser Pass, 7.5 k's, 4.4%, very regular, then a descent of 5 to 6 kilometres, then a very flat finish on what looked like an airfield. Wet today, raining on and off. Mathieu van der Poel narrowly in the leader's jersey, I believe, ahead of Julien Alaphilippe by 1 second and Kung by 4 seconds. I'll let Benji do the break in a second, but if you hear some noise, someone drilling, there's some Egypt at 5:30 doing that. Not my fault. There was a kid making noise outside, though, in the hallway. They've been dealt with, but I can't do anything about the drilling. All right, Benji. There's some break shenanigans early on that didn't make sense to you that you brought up with me.
Yeah, I found it pretty funny because we started off the stage with a breakaway of, I think it was 4 riders. And that breakaway actually held on for half of the stage. And halfway the race, the break was caught. And the peloton chased down that breakaway and caught that breakaway because then we saw attacks. Wout Poels and Rohan Dennis onto the attack. In a 3-man group, I don't know which the third rider was in that attack. But a very odd move because it's like in the middle of a stage and the climb is like very far ahead. Perhaps Dennis and Poels were like, we're going to try something. And they were gone for a little bit, like a good 30 seconds, minute. And, in time that they were ahead, not as in the gap, because the gap was nowhere near that. And eventually they got caught again and another breakaway got away. And then suddenly the peloton changed their mind. They're like, that first breakaway with people that didn't matter for GC, those were dangerous. Yes, we're going to catch them. But the second breakaway of the day, the ones with, again, riders that don't matter for GC, those guys can take the stage because from now on, we don't care about the stage win anymore. And that breakaway included Stefan Bissiger, Benjamin Thomas. We've got Joey Rosskopf, I think, and also another rider, Joel Sutter, if my mind is correct. Rosskopf now rides for Rally?
Yes, that's right.
Really? Oh my God. Sorry, mind blown. Anyway, they eventually started the climb with 7 minutes. 7 minutes on the peloton.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah.
Well, cowardice,
I can't wrap my head around it.
It's cowardice. You've been beaten by Mathieu van der Poel 2 days in a row on sort of puncher-style stages. This isn't a puncher stage. It's a very linear stage that should be more easy to control than those stages. You got pancake flat, then a big ring climb, 7.5 k's, 4%. Bissiger was, fine on it, and he's not the best climber in the world. Neither is Thomas either, and then it's a flat sprint finish. It's wet. It's not the stage MVDP would have necessarily. He would have still been the favourite, but I'm not saying it's guaranteed he would have won. And teams like Bike Exchange with Matthews, Movistar for Ivan Garcia Cortina, Cofidis for Laporte. Cofidis wouldn't help. They didn't help Movistar. Movistar decided with the gap at 6 minutes that was the time to start really pulling it back, which, again, if you want to have designs on a stage, and we've seen this in the Giro, don't start pulling at 5 minutes. Pull at 2 minutes, keep it tight, and then you can bring it back and really have a go at the end. So pretty funny from the World Tour teams or the other World Tour teams that basically were scared of being beaten by Mathieu van der Poel. Again, can we blame them? I think so. You always have to try. Still, even if your rider has a 5% chance of a World Tour victory, even Garcia Cortina doesn't win World Tour races every day. So the break was going to win. And what did you see on that climb, Benji? It was basically Suter struggling.
Yeah, Suter was struggling. And it's weird because I do recall him climbing pretty well in, I think, the Tour of Turkey on that Gogu Belly climb or whatever it was called. He was in the break as well, and he rode away from people.
What the fuck?
I don't know how I remember it. Okay. So Joel Sutter attacked her from the breakaway and actually held on for quite a long time. So I was surprised that he was the first one to drop on the climb here. A bit of an odd comparison between the two, I know, but still. Anyway, he was dropping from the breakaway, so 3 men left, and they were about to drop into this descent. In the peloton, we had some moves. I think Anton Palzer did something. I don't know why, but at a certain point, I watched the TV, and he was like 5 meters before the peloton, and I looked back, and he was caught again. So No clue what happened. There were too many races going on to be interested in what the peloton was doing on that climb into the Swiss. And eventually, in the descent, Bissiger was a very decent descender to my as well. Roscoff, which I expect to be relatively decent at descending, did end up being on a few gaps sometimes. And let's be honest, nothing really happened for the rest of the stage, and they entered the last 200 meters, which was a really cool finish.
Oh,
Like,
Roscoff tried to attack the two track guys.
yeah,
He
true,
tried to
true.
attack them a couple of times. He didn't want to go to the finish with Bissiger and Thomas because I think Benjamin Thomas, he's the Omnium world champ or something. And Bissiger is definitely a track guy as well. Yeah, Benjamin Thomas won the Omnium, I think, in 2020. Don't quote me on that. So they're both quick guys, and Roscoff is more a TT style engine guy,
Yeah,
not a sprinter. So yeah, he tried to shake them off, and yeah, what sort of finish was it? It was weird. It was like that stage 4 in the Dauphiné last year, an airfield.
yep. Yeah, exactly. It looked like that. And it was Bissiger going into the last 250 meters. He took the front. He decided to take on the sprint in fast place. And usually Thomas a pretty decent sprinter, as in he can actually get like a far top 10 position somewhere in a sprint. And he decided to go from second place. Roshkov was in third place, was on a bit of a gap a bit earlier, and got back again after
Oh,
the
Roscoff
last
was
corner
first. He
basically.
let it out.
Really? Oh
Yeah,
my god, my memory
but
didn't
then he
serve me right
faded
today.
straight away. It was basically between Bissiger let out
Yeah?
Thomas. Bissiger let out Thomas,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then Thomas was. We thought he got into the wheel of Bissiger, and they kicked really late, 175 to go, and then Bissiger just kept kicking, kept going, and that's why. Yeah, Benji and I were surprised because
Yep.
Thomas is a really good sprinter, and yeah, Bissiger absolutely smoked him really in this wet sprint in the Tour de Suisse, winning his second World Tour race of the season, won the stage in Paris-Nice, the TT, ahead of Remy Cavagna. So was it Kuhn won stage, the TT, Bissiger won this stage. So 2 Swiss wins already for the Tour de Suisse. And yeah, pretty. I mean, just he's a really strong rider, Stefan Bissiger, but it all panned out perfectly for him because he really received little pressure on that climb. So how he'll go in a proper medium mountain stage, I'm not so sure. Here's a top 10: Bissiger, Thomas, Roscoff, Suter, Turns, Edward Turns, that is, Molana, Freyler, Turnison, Wright, Matthews in 10. No changes to the top 10 in GC. Any other thoughts on this Tour de Suisse stage, Benji?
Two things. First of all, why the hell are you sprinting Turns in Milano? Like, why? It makes zero fucking sense to sprint for fifth and sixth position. You're
UCI
nowhere
points?
near the front of the points classification. UCI points, let's be real. If you're gonna go for that these days, well, okay, you can have it. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And
PCS points?
yeah, that's the reason. Anyway, the second thing I want to point is that someone asked me today what we think that the limits are for Bissinger because he's climbing relatively decently. We don't know what that's gonna be like on like proper climbing competition. Yesterday he dropped, so let's be real, it's not insane. We've seen him do prologues. We've seen him do cobbles. Wasn't he in RVV, the last rider that got caught from the breakaway? Um, where do we think his limits lie? Do we think that, for example, a rider like Bissiger, let's say, he could also do stuff like we are expecting from a Ganna on Roubaix, for example, because he seems to be that kind of person that fits that perfectly.
Yeah, he seems much more suited to something like Roubaix. I mean, we saw in Paris-Nice on a sort of hilly circuit, he was struggling a lot to protect the leader's jersey, I think, which he went into. So he's not tall. He's a really stocky, well-built guy, one of the like biggest guys in cycling, in road cycling, that is. So I think, yeah, Roubaix suits him a lot, actually. And how many years is he under contract for? That's what I'm going to check. He's got another year with EF next year. He's 22 years old. I think there'll be some other teams sniffing around. Bora Hansgrohe, Quick Step. He's an absolute animal. Stefan Bissiger.
Big Bang Tour.
Big Bang, yeah,
He got
exactly,
12th last year, so he can definitely do better in that this year.
for sure. He can be a GC candidate for Big Bang Tour GC.
Yep.
Tomorrow's stage starts from Stade again, goes to Leukerbad, 176 Ks. We've got the first proper hilltop finish of this year's Tour de Suisse, and a stage that Mathieu van der Poel will not be contesting. They have Cat 1, what's called a Cat 1 at the door, 7 Ks, 5%. It's not that bad. Then a long descent and then a long valley of like 100 kilometers before a series of hills gradually getting bigger start, 3.2 Ks, 4%. Then they do the Erschmatt, the hardest climb of the day, 8 Ks, 8.4% descent. Then a finish up to Leukerbad, 4.1 Ks at 7%. I just want to see that profile because it looks like to me the Erschmatt climb pretty regular. The finish though seems to level off from 2,000 meters to go to the last K, and then it kicks up even more at the line. So I dare say the finish is quite steep. And I think Alaphilippe is going to win this stage.
I think that's a good call. I don't want to say the same name. Schachman? Meh. I don't know.
Schachman's a good call.
Rui Costa. Tour de Suisse? Why not?
Zero chance.
Rui Costa wins.
All that I've seen from Rui Costa at the Tour de Suisse so far is crashing and then peeing today. So I don't think
he's throwing. Technically,
bike throwing as well.
Not over the line, but like literally.
Do we have there's racket abuse in tennis? Is there an equivalent in cycling? Anyway, Tour de Suisse tomorrow. There should be a big GC shake-up, one would think, at 8K, 8.4%. Maybe we'll see something there. Maybe Carapaz attacks early and then goes on the descent. That could be a good option. The problem is the stage is really easy before then. It's 100 Ks of flat, so it's difficult for the guys of this caliber to have a really real selection on that, but it's a hard climb. 8K is 8.4%, but one to tune into more tomorrow than the one today.